Hello and welcome. Today we've got Decode, and we are going to be discussing today the convoy, the Ukraine, and NATO's alliance. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview. Unless, of course, myself and Jean can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Jean, thank you for joining me. How are you, sir? And what have you been up to?
Oh, busy as crazy as always. We're looking at a platform to do my own screening for my own channel. That'll be really, looks like very, very, very promising. And getting Decode up by the end of March, extremely likely. And then additionally, busy working on things on the home and getting things done, and really, really, really busy with all of the items going on all over the world. Most people know about the Freedom Convoy in Canada, and I believe you had one rolled out in the UK, right, Nicholas?
Mm-hmm. We did.
Yeah, and there's one in the US. One started in the Netherlands, went to Belgium, is rolling through Europe. So I have a few items, just a tribute to the convoy that got it going, which is the Canada Convoy. So let me share that first. This was put together by a person that sends me a lot of nice stuff. So thank you to that person. Coming in, now you're backing out. It's hard to tell, babe. With a shotgun in your mouth. I'm glad you brought your friends. They're gonna watch it go down. I got mine too. So welcome to my house. 'Cause these are my people. This is my land. This is what we pray for. This is God's plan. And if you ain't from here, you won't understand. This is my country, and this is who I am. So welcome to my house.
Thank you, Chucker. Thank you, Chucker.
Welcome to my house.
Well, that was beautiful. Lovely video.
Yeah, and I wanted to thank you, the people that put that together. Really lovely. And the mainstream media is just, making up a lot of garbage about what's going on in the Ukraine. In the convoy. Not even remotely true. So let me play an item of the Mockingbird media, the propaganda wing, the mainstream, that is, very exemplary of what I'm talking about.
Insurrection, a threat to democracy.
This city is under siege.
Your country's in revolt. Alarming situation there in Ottawa.
The police chief is calling it a nationwide insurrection driven by madness.
If you support the truckers in Ottawa, I'm going to assume that you are a fucking Nazi.
Canadians know where I stand.
There hasn't been as much violence as some had perhaps projected, but that does not necessarily mean that it has been peaceful. Reports of
It also doesn't mean it hasn't been peaceful.
Severe vandalism and criminal behavior.
The streets are clogged. The honking is incessant.
Some protesters harassed a soup kitchen.
These anti-vaxxers actually took food from the mouths of the homeless.
All how they lie constantly.
Ironically enough, similar to Dr. Panesi,
Very peaceful.
losing her job over a violation of what she held to be her ethics. I'm about to lose mine. And my primary responsibility for the last 8 years was supporting protection of our Prime Minister. The irony is not lost on me and probably not lost on him either. And as a Mountie, I always felt it was very important that I know what my legal authorities are.
So that's, one of the people that protected Trudeau, and it's important that people understand, the truth of what's really going on.
And that police officers should know exactly what authority they have to do what they do. And I would like to just read the paragraph 3 of the Emergencies Act to you. Whereas the Governor and Council, in taking such special temporary measures, would be subject to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Canadian Bill of Rights, particularly with respect to those fundamental rights, not to be limited or abridged. You don't end up.
That's important, that the Emergency Act does not get rid of their rights. People don't understand the law of Canada, their constitution, their rights. And that's why Queen Romana had to declare herself that, because in their country, it's not like the United States where laws are signed in to the Congress, Senate, and then the president, and then they're law. It has to be declared law by the Queen of England. So then it has to be a queen in power. So Queen Romana has declared that, so that then this, Castro Jr. dude, who's never, really been for the people at all, can be dealt with.
Your license, end up with a criminal record, which will impact
this guy,
the job, your livelihood, even your ability to travel internationally, including to the US.
Our mobility rights, where every citizen has the right to enter, remain in, and leave Canada, even in a national emergency. Everyone has the right not to be arbitrarily detained or imprisoned. So when I read about the secure isolation facility in North Battleford, Saskatchewan, that was very concerning to me. Detailed about how it is meant for people who willfully do not abide by their quarantine. Every individual is equal before and under the law. Excuse me.
So I highly recommend people watch this entire video that's being played here. So let me shrink it down so you can get the People's Convoy. This
Right.
is really, a gentleman talks about all of the items that's going on and the lies that the total totalitarian dictatorship that they're trying to put in place in Canada. So it's really important that people understand the truth of what's going on. And then wanted to play this too on the US now. So in the US, there are several different convoys. This is the main one.
Well, Justin Trudeau Castro is doing his best to crush the Canada truckers, but his emergency measures don't reach into the United States. And Joe Biden doesn't have an Emergency Measures Act to fall back on, and his brain probably has melted too much to use one if he did. So we have a serious U.S. trucker convoy that's being mobilized and is headed straight for D.C. They're picking up the trek of the Canada truckers and bringing their demands to the U.S. Capitol. Let me tell you, if you've ever been to Washington, the streets there are not ready for thousands of irate truckers to be parading around them. Couldn't happen to a nicer city or nicer people, by the way. And who knows, the State of the Union is scheduled for March 1st.
That's interesting.
It's being organized by people who know what they're doing. What can we say about this one?
Well, for my part, that's exactly the type of intellectual firepower that we're looking to bring to this whole movement. Moving a convoy from one coast to the other coast across 3,000 miles is no small feat. There's a lot of logistics that go into this. We like to think that we have a lot of strategy and intellectual firepower, like I said, in our own wheelhouse. But for my part, we are now being we're next leveling. What do the kids call it? Leveling up. We've got a retired former military commander who was literally tapped by CENTCOM to run supply chain logistics and keep the west coast of the Persian Gulf open when we expected the enemy in 2019 to try to close it down to our military assets in the Mideast. So we are literally making our wheelhouse the best that it can be. We expect the other side to potentially have infiltrators or do some funny business.
They tried that in Canada too, but Queen Romana and their organization there got rid of, apprehended 200 people that were sent by the deep state to do that, over 200.
It online, they're hacking us.
Jean, have you frozen as well?
Is the People's Convoy. That's the one we're working with, the peoplesconvoy.org. Any other site you see up there, just so Stu, I got to say this. As of last night, people are taking my name, my image, and cross-branding it to their convoy that I've never even talked to. Like, oh, it's the American Freedom Convoy. That's not us, guys. There is one website right now that is going to be updated that you can donate to, that you can get data that is legitimate on what we're putting together. And again, that website is thepeoplesconvoy.org.
Thepeoplesconvoy.org. I'm looking at it here right now. So when I donate here, how can these people that are giving this money assure, I guess can we be positive it's not going to be stolen by Chairman Biden?
As positive as you can ever be. So what we have done is we brought in another top shelf national law firm to oversee the distribution of these funds to make sure that what happened in Canada, to the extent we can sidestep that down here, doesn't happen to our truckers. We've got accountants overseeing this. Again, this is not just a small little rodeo, a bunch of yahoos getting together. Canada has done a phenomenal job, both with branding, logistics, and trying to keep their money lines flowing. And we have been watching and learning from what the other side did and how they've managed to successfully sidestep it so many times. And we're taking all of that intellectual capital and the lessons learned north of the border and deploying it here. But yes, we have a law firm overseeing this and accountants. And we are upgrading daily to keep the social media attacks and whatnot off of our lines.
I mean, are you watching what's happening? Obviously you are, but for the viewing audience, for the family here at the Stu Peters Show, are you watching this, you guys? We are seeing as more, quote, crackdowns are being shown by this lying and dishonest fake media. What's actually happening is this is growing in size. These truckers are not going anywhere in Canada. This is not like we're here to negotiate. No. This is Trudeau.
And another thing that they're doing in Canada is they're arresting various of the top people, saying that they're guilty of all the stuff you heard the fake mainstream media doing. But they're taking them 20 miles out of town in the middle of nowhere, and it's really cold up there, and letting them go. Fortunately, people are watching that and going and getting people and getting them back. Because they can't, they're totally, they can't press charges. They're just trying to hassle them. And so they can't press charges. They're not doing anything illegal. And so
they're just taking them and just taking them and dropping them somewhere really, really far because they know they can't press charges. What they're doing is illegal.
Correct. What the government's doing is illegal. They can't press charges. So what they're doing is just trying to create so much problems for the top level people in the organization of the Canadian truckers that they will go away. It's not going to go away. It's not going to go away around the world. This is why Trump did Warp Speed. What is going on, all of these face diapers and things putting in people's arms that they say you have to do, and digital IDs in some countries now. That's why, Kazakhstan fell right away within 24 hours because they were going to mandate that you get a chip in the arm. And same thing in Canada, you can't pull your money out of the bank unless you have had all of your up-to-date boosters, everything else. So they said, no way. And the government said, we're not going away. They were gone in 24 hours. Same thing now with Castro Jr. He's saying, this and this and this, it's all lies. There's all this, lies about violence or whatever. None of that's happening. And so as far as I see, and I know people are going to doubt this, but if you look at Queen Romana, and again, I explained why it has to be a queen, but the people escorting her are top military people. And people are saying, no, they're not. You need to look very carefully at what you're looking at. I know there's people saying, no, there's not. Yes, there is. From my information, those are the true people that are in charge of things there. From the best I can discernment, my sources, everything else says that's actually what's going on. And so we're looking at a situation where the rightful government will be installed. And by that, I mean a government that's for the people, by the people, and with the people, and not a totalitarian dictatorship by Castro's son. So, and all of this stuff like they've had for, hundreds of years in Canada. I've done interviews before where I talked about the many, many hundreds and thousands of missing Native American children up in Canada. Mass graves of up to 600 people, children were found in many, many areas. I did that on Galactic Talk, so people can see that. And that's the kind of thing that we, it's not just the mandates, that's massive. But the mandates is what's making people wake up all over the world. That's why Trump did Warp Speed, because you need to wake up the people. You can't just go make mass arrests and all of this like they have done before and expect it not to come back to what it is. If you create a power vacuum, you'll have a power elite fill that vacuum. We need to wake up every person on earth to the truth, as many as you can. Of course, 8% or so won't ever wake up. It doesn't matter what you do. They're so mind farmed, they'll never get back. But, we can see, I can see a massive difference already. 30% of people now know the truth. That's massive. When I used to go talk, it's not 3 out of every 10 people know the truth. It's 1 out of 300 knew the truth at all. That that if I woke up somebody knew that 1 out of 300 people would be willing to listen to me, other than the one I found that already knew. One more would be able to listen to me and want to hear what I had to say. And over those first 30 years, I woke up about 30 people total, only of about which 10 people stayed with it and didn't want to go back into their mainstream life and have a normal life, as they told me. I don't want to know all this. I don't want to be involved in this. I don't want to choose a side. Well, we're not at a time when you can pick to choose it, not to choose a side. It's like in martial arts, like being Karate Kid. That's very true. Martial arts, yes, fine. Martial arts, no, fine. Martial arts, maybe. Squish like the great. We're in the same time with this in the world. This is, like Queen Romana said, World War III. It's just not as obvious as World War I and II, where the stuff going on is underground or out in space, the majority of it. And then it's an information war, a massive information war of lies and things that you don't see. People don't see what's going on. We used to have news in this continent that you had a clue what was going on somewhere else in the world. The American people have no clue. I'm really blessed, literally, to have the Blessed for Service team who gives me information about what's going on all over the world. And the Alliance sometimes shares some information for me as well about what's really going on. Like when the Taliban took over Afghanistan and people were saying, oh, that's cabal and da-da-da. No, they burned the crops. They burned the poppy fields. They burned, and India covered it in some free actual news in India, that they burned $12 billion in raw crops, raw opium and fields. And so the truth doesn't get out. It's people like you, Nicholas, and me, and the other people all over the world, like the Stu Peters you saw there, and all these American frontline doctors, which there's now all over the world. It's not just American, all over the world. In your country, you have Dr. Vernon, the old man in the chair, who's hilarious, but he's telling the truth and getting out there. And doctors all over the world are doing the same. And people are waking up because of the mandates and what's going on all over the world. They see the truth. They see the governments that they did not elect in power, in absolute power, and that you have this fake two-party system that it's one or the other, and you rotate back and forth, and that both people running are put in by the same people. And the only exception would be in this country, we had Trump for a period of time, and then they stole it from him on the second time, and that will be undone too. They have all of the PCAPs now, and once this has come out with all of the stuff on the mandates, they can go. by all of the PCAPs, I mean every single county in the entire United States. They will be able to show what exactly really happened and who voted for whom. And, when that comes out, it'll show that the Dominion machines and the software and all of that are hooked directly to the internet, and that the Vatican and the Jesuit order had a massive hand, as did the CCP in this. And it's had a massive hand for 30 years in every vote in every country. The people that we have who are running our countries are not the people that the people of the country have selected. And so it's going to be a massive thing. And Queen Romana has also stated that she was going to ask Putin to join the NATO alliance. And people aren't understanding the significance of this. The NATO alliance is not the old NATO. It's a new NATO under the Earth alliance. It's the NATO alliance. And so Ukraine is out of that because they're, of course, one of the cabal deep states, big primary countries right now. And they're, the alliance is doing ops in there. Putin sent troops in there, etc., because he was welcomed into the NATO alliance. And so I wanted to share the screen here on something. Mm-hmm. People don't pay attention to things very carefully. I know it's a little hazy, but you can pull this up. It's Putin talking about a speech, and it says President Ukraine. Wow. Vladimir Putin, President Ukraine. So they show things they don't always say. They'll show things in the background and tell you the truth by showing it to you without people really understanding. It's just like in these documents here, another thing I'll show that, so I can figure out where my mouse went. It's running around. Come here, Bousy. Oh my goodness, he's trying to run for cover. Okay, so we have what's going on with the NIH, the FDA, the WHO, etc. So they've admitted that these tests for this right here, the CO, short for video, was developed without isolated samples, which means it's made for what? The common cold? Common cold. Yeah, was developed, not actual, but rather what appears to be genetic material from a common cold V thing. We'll just put it that way so you don't get a hit, Nicholas. And it's totally ridiculous what they're doing. So that's the first part of that tweet. Let me play put up the second part here. And that's absolutely true. So what's the test for? The common cold. It's like, okay. And then you, not only that, you run it through so many times that one molecule in a trillion will hit positive. You've sampled it so many times. You've oversampled it beyond the ratio. So it'll come up positive. So the EUA is totally ridiculous. Then it's totally fictional. All these mandates, everything else. Everybody also knows that the list by the NIH has been modified several times. So just the terminology of what they call the thing that goes in your arm and what is classified to that. Like Trump says he goes with HEQ and other things that work. It's like Ivor stuff, the Ivor and MECATIN. That is all. Yeah, the Mectin stuff, and that does work, and yet they pull it, and the monoclonals, and they pull all this stuff that does work, because if it does work, and it works way better than the Remdesivir stuff, which actually causes organ failure, especially with the liver and things like that, it causes severe problems. Then you would not have the EUA if you have something better. You wouldn't have the stuff they're putting in people's arms. And so you can see all of this stuff is what they're going after is our children. And this is where they want total tyrannical government policies that have absolute control of everything we say and do and go. And so, it's a bunch of fiction. And so the NATO alliance is now what is running NATO. It's not the old NATO. And that NATO alliance has sent MREs and emergency medical kits and fuel bars and all kinds of things to Canada and to the US truckers. So people aren't aware that the NATO alliance is not the same, but they're also helping the convoys. The convoys are a massive statement, a massive flow of energy that's going across ley lines. And it's causing the earth literally to change the timeline we're in. So the old one with the emergency broadcast, blackouts, 10 days, all of that stuff, the 8-day screening and videos, that's in the previous timeline that would have caused the cabal was gearing up for that. That would have caused a lot of death and destruction. So that's not our timeline anymore. It's where the people wake up organically to see food rolling in front of them.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Vladimir Putin, the president of Ukraine?
Yeah. So he is, the Ukrainian government, as most people know, with Hunter and Smokey Joe, as I call him, who Stu Peters is saying, chairman so-and-so's, Chairman Joe. Use that word, but I'll use Joe. But that, of course, Joe is nothing but a CCP chairman. He's nothing but a talking head, not a very good one because his head can't keep his head straight with where he is even. So in that, they were doing massive business deals. And when he was, working under Obama, he actually threatened Ukraine that they wouldn't get the aid they wanted unless they got rid of people who are investigating his son. They're top investigator in their country. I won't use words so I don't get you blocked, but people know what I mean. And there was a conference he did in which he announced it on stage that, and lo and behold, that guy was removed. And and they, he said the Ukrainian government said, you can't stop us from getting that. He goes, yeah, watch me. I'll make a phone call and it won't happen. And then lo and behold, they got rid of that guy and his son went scot-free. And his son was not just doing drugs and all of that. And, he was doing things with minors, not just in Ukraine, but in China and everywhere else. That hits his nature. He's a drug addict and a pedophile. Same like father, like son, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Same with Junior in Canada. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's the same old, same old. We're watching this and we're ending this. We're getting to the truth and we're getting into a world where we will have fair and legal representation that we vote into place. And if they don't do that, we will remove them and we'll have our power back to do exactly that. And all of these ridiculous mandates and all this stuff that existed based on nothing. The tests, for example, people don't think like they put a wand up your nose that's 8 inches long. It goes all the way up into the sphygmoid sinus, which is right under the pineal gland, breaks through what's called the cribriform plate. It was a torture method in ancient Egypt. And then what's on that Q-tip can get straight into the brain. There is no blood-brain barrier. You broke it. And so now the stuff that's on that is a lesser amount of the same thing they're putting in the arm. And so you keep doing this. You're doing that. You're having to do that for your job every week. You're getting the exact same thing. And then the various things that you can do to mitigate it. Like I can't put out my stuff anymore. You can still go to Dr. Artis' site, Dr. Zelenko, and many people have a lot of different things that you can get to help treat it because they don't want anybody to have any way out of this. They want us to get sick and die based on Georgia Guidestone. So they call the American Stonehenge. It's all part of their plan. And, Trump got them to do the plan 5 years too soon. They played their ace in the hole before they had the rest of the cards on the plate that they needed to have the world's economic system broken. The people of the world pretty sick with the face diapers and all of that. And having to wear 2 of them to go out where it's compromising the immune system. You're breathing high levels of carbon dioxide all day, dropping your immune system, getting you sick. You can't break the supply chains. You can't get good food. You You can't, a lot of people become homeless. They lose their jobs, their companies. All the small companies are gone. The only thing you've got are companies that are somewhere underneath the BlackRock Vanguard groups, the two companies, which are the same company, BlackRock Vanguard, are essentially the same thing under the Pessoa family. They're just the right and left arm of the same people. And they own each other, and they own everything else of all the major corporations on earth. And then they are literally taking the people that are dying from this stuff and recycling them into the stuff they're using in the next generation as part of what's in there. If you look at the ingredients and know what those ingredients mean, you'll see it. It's also a lot in the processed food, especially in fast foods. And people will go, you know, in that I had a document on my Blessed for Service website in which there was an interview and a person saying it's anti-Semitic. What's important, I'm not anti-Semitic, and it may not be 100% absolutely, you know, but the information in there about going to a fast food restaurant, the FDA has tested that out, and their food and their packaging plants for their big beef and all of that is not beef. It's 70 to 80% human DNA in there. So depending on which plant you're at, and that's true for all of these fast food chains, they're all that way. So you need to look at that. If you don't believe me, get your own sample and take it to a company and have them analyze it. Don't believe me.
I think I would do just that. I think I'm going to do my own research, and I think that's what we need to be doing. So you're saying like things like McDonald's and Burger King,
Wendy's, yeah,
anything that's a beef burger that's a big franchise and it's mainstream and it's been around for decades. We know that they're definitely in with this.
Absolutely. Like in England, I had way back 2 years ago a guy that told me, you're absolutely correct, Gene. I work in a meat packing plant for a major company. I won't say the name or I'll lose my job, but I've been working there for almost 30 years. And 20 years ago, when the mad cow thing, you know, came up, we had problems getting, and then suddenly the food changed the way it's, the big, you know, chunks of meat we get in changed. They are no longer hairy, you know, furry. They're hairy and not the hair like you'd see on a cow. And the smell is different. The color is different. The size is different. Everything about it was different. The bones are different. And I know the bones of a cow, and those are not the bones of a cow. I know what it's the bones of. And so this is exactly, so if you're buying meat from a major shopping center or anything, I would say if you're not, unfortunately, I have a person that I buy meat who raises his own cattle. I can go see the cow. I can go also bison. I can go see the bison. I can watch it go into the blaze and, you know, and then they pray over it. I can see all of that. If you don't have that option, get chicken with a bone in it. Get fish where you know it's a fish. Those kind of things. If you're going to be eating meat and those kind of things, then make sure you're really eating what you think you're eating. You know?
Wow, that's crazy stuff, Gene. Thank you for sharing that. You know, you mentioned also, did you want to say anything else? Sorry.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Yeah. There was one thing that you said earlier, you know, that this is, you know, Trump's warp speed, people waking up very slowly and gently and naturally. You say that things will come out, you know, with all the proof, with the numbers and the states. When it does come out, do you see Trump returning in his position?
I see that that'll be cleared out, yes, and that he will come back. They'll do all the PCAPs, show it all completely, and they'll explain to people about the Act of 1871 that changed the government in the U.S. into a corporation. And they'll, since the Grant, you know, he's the one that did that. And since that time, we've not had a president. We've had esquires before that, which actually weren't presidents either, but they completely hijacked it at that time. In 1812, they burned the original Constitution, but the founding fathers were smart enough to have an original tucked away, a second original. And that one will come back. The original Constitution for these United States, for America, these United States, not the United States, and not in gaps. That's a corporation. And so the same thing goes for Canada. The same thing goes for many places all over the world. The truth will come out completely. on the wars and who really won and what was really fought for. I mean, it's like the Bob Dylan song with World War One. I never really figured out what it was even about and who was fighting who from who. It's exactly. They put up these wars and places and, things, and that's their forte, is to get us to go to war, to cull us and to make a fortune, and they're funding both sides every single time. And, when I get my back channel open on Gene Decode, I'll be doing the history and showing how Hitler actually escaped to Argentina. I've got documentation. There's FBI documents you can get through Freedom Information Act. He died in Argentina. He was in a car accident there. He got hit by a car. And his wife, Eva Braun, had several children, quite a few. Angela Merkel's one of them. There's several others. One of them actually ran your country for a while, Nicholas, underneath the Queen, of course. But, a lot of who people think people are is not who they are. And they'll be surprised with how many children she had and who they were. It's really stunning. And in the true history of the world, the true structure of the Earth and our solar system and all of this, people are going to be quite amazed to find out how vastly we've been lied to, and learn to think and research for yourself. So, I would say absolutely, for everybody to do your research, go get a hamburger at one of these fast food places and take it to a lab and ask them to do a DNA check and what kind of material is in that meat. Where does it come from? Get it out. Get the truth out, like the doctors are all over the world about what we're getting forced to put in our arm, what's in there, and what does that do to you long term. It's not what we're being told. None of it's what we're being told. So we need to do the research and find out for ourselves.
And if people do decide to do the research on a hamburger, I really think that you should get every proof you can, photos, videos, signatures from doctors. And I think it's really important we put all this together, and it could be a number of you, and we could put this out there on my platform and show the people, and we could even do an interview with you. I'd definitely support that. And I'd definitely, Gene, like to do research myself on a hamburger, actually.
Thank you for doing that, Nicholas. I think that's important, that every platform out there that people do this, get the information, get the lab results, the whole thing. If it is cow, let's know it's cow. If it isn't cow, let's know how much of it isn't cow or how much of it is cow and what else it is.
Absolutely.
Back, 30, 40 years of most of the meat coming into to be from cows was what was called triple D, where it was dead, diseased, or dying. The cow only went to the market when it started to lose weight, and they cut huge tumors and all kinds, and they just grind it up, and they'd feed that to the cattle, and that wound up giving them, because if an animal eats its own kind, it winds up getting its own kind of kuru. That created mad cow's disease. So then they instead give it to our pets now, our dogs and our cats. So also on my back channel, when I get Gene Decode up, we'll have how to make your own natural dog food and cat food and different things, and how to take care of your animals so you can get healthy animals too, where your animals aren't having these kind of things that you have to buy that's not very good for them. It's all this recycled and terrible stuff.
Absolutely. Well, Gene, thank you so much for your time. It's been a great honor to have you once again. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, I would definitely that always know that God has your back. You respect God. You be there for God. God will be there for you. So have faith in the one and only God of all creation. And for me, it means to follow his only begotten Son as your Lord and Savior. I honor all religions. So whatever your religion is, as long as you're not satanic and doing evil things, that if you're following the one true God of all creation and you're putting that God first at all things in your life, and you're doing the best to do the highest interests of all life everywhere, of being kind, considerate, and respectful, then that's how we're going to bring this to an end. So I ask everybody to have Godspeed, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Gene. God bless you. Bye-bye.